Hello, everyone! Welcome to another Mysterious Galaxy virtual event. I am Nick, the Director of Events for the store. I have three terrific, spooky, magical authors here for you today, showing off their middle grade wares. Natalie C. Parker, Dhonielle Clayton, and Zoraida Córdova. Hello, everyone!
Yay!
Hi.
Hello! The shenanigans can begin.
If you need to purchase any of their books, we got you there. I'm talking about these bad boys here and more. You click the link below that says buy books and get signed book plates. They'll take you to our website where you can purchase any of their books. Right now, we still have some signed, tipped-in copies of The Marvelers. So if you wanted to order one of those, make sure in the comments section that you say you want a signed copy. Otherwise, for wonderful books like The Devouring Wolf, or perhaps Valentina Salazar is not a monster hunter, put in the comments section you want a signed book plate so we make sure we get those to you. And lastly, if you have any questions that you want to ask for later in the program, at any time you can hit the Ask a Question button and put your question in, and we'll ask them towards the end. All right, I'm going to disappear for now and leave it to these trio of authors. I'll see everyone later.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, boy. Let the shenanigans begin.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So, I think that we should start, not to display my leadership skills.
Sure.
Okay. I think that we should first pitch our current books. I'm going last. Okay. And and talk about the pitch them. Like, what did we do? Like, this is like middle grade. This is so different than our other work.
Mm-hmm. Natalie, you go first. Okay. All right. So I'm Natalie Parker, and The Devouring Wolf. Wait, I have it. I never have things like this, but I have it ready to show off. The Devouring Wolf is my debut middle grade novel. It is about a werewolf community in Kansas, because that is where I live. And it's about a group of kids who are all expecting to turn into a werewolf for the first time between their 9th and 12th years. And Riley Callahan, she's turned 12. And so this is the last year that she can possibly turn into a werewolf. She knows it's going to happen. It's happened for all of her friends. And she comes to the full moon rite and is ready to transform. And of course, it doesn't happen. So it is deeply distressing to Riley, but she quickly discovers that she's not alone. There are a few other kids for whom the transformation didn't happen. And the whole story is about them trying to figure out why things are happening differently for them, what else might be at work in the werewolf community, what might be causing problems with the magic, and how they fit into all of that. So it is magic and mystery, and a lot about growing up into, that transitionary phase between childhood and adulthood. So yeah, that's The Devouring Wolf.
Awesome. My book is Córdova. Yeah, my book is Valentina Salazar is Not a Monster Hunter. It's about a girl named Valentina Salazar who is not a monster hunter. She's a monster protector. She comes from a long line of monster hunters, originally from Ecuador, and her family lives in a van called the Scourge of Land and Sea. But after her father's accident, after her father dies, her mom uproots them and takes them to upstate New York, where they are going to live permanently. But Valentina's having a hard time adjusting to this new normal. And she convinces her brother and sisters to steal the family van and go in search of a magical egg that has been found on a YouTube channel. And they are very good monster protectors, so they have to go and get this egg before the terrible, no good monster hunters get there first. But among them, among the monster hunters, is their sister, their oldest sister, who has defected and joined the negative side. Why are you dragging me like this? Dhonielle has pointed out that I don't know how to drive. But you know,
So is it hashtag own voices? If you don't, they're in a van.
the mechanics of a car are you get in and you just go. Also, it is a self-driving van. Yes, it is. It is a self-driving van. It is a smart van. So the kids don't have problems.
Oh my God. I forced Zoraida to like pump gas and like try to teach her all of the things related to a car.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. You're like, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, fine, princessa, I will do it then.
Zoraida, how many pedals does a car have?
2.
You're laughing because you don't know if that's the right answer.
Exactly.
You're laughing because you're guessing.
Was it a good guess? Was it a
It was a good guess, but it is not a unanimously true guess.
Exactly. The correct would, it could be 3.
It could be 3. So
it could be 4.
It could be 4. Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Dhonielle, it's your turn.
Okay. I have a really hard time pitching my own book. And like, it's happened to me quite a bit where I'm like, how do I even talk about what's in this book? Okay. So basically, it's set in a world where there are marvelous people. They are called marvelers. They have a marvel, which is something that is marvelous about them or their magic. But there are these other people called conjurers who have a different kind of magic. They are descendant from the marvelers, but something changed their magic. And it is about the first conjurer that ever gets to go to this Marvellian school because the marvelers decided they were going to leave the boring, non-magical people on the ground and live in the skies. And so this is about the first kid, Ella Durand, who gets to go to that magic school in the sky. And she's basically an ambassador for her community. And these two very different magical people have to learn about community and how you make space and how do you sort of figure out how to exist together when everyone in the world has magic. That was a bad job pitching it. I really don't know how to pitch this book. Like, I really don't. Like, it's really hard.
You better learn. You're going on tour next week.
You did a great job. That's what Zoraida meant to say.
Thank you. Thank you. I've already been on tour and I talk about it and I have an out-of-body experience because like I wrote the book and I'm like, I know what it's about, but like there's a lot going on in my book. And sometimes I don't know how to pitch it. So I'm like, anyways, magic school. So
it is hard to pitch a book when there's like a big layer of world or magic that is like fundamental to the character in their journey, which I think is why we all write.
Exactly.
Magic.
And let's talk about the magic then. So, and magic rules, magic systems, like this is stuff we geek out about. Also, the three of us are very good friends. So I think we're all of us trying to be so professional right now that I'm like trying to be serious because otherwise we would just devolve. So let's talk magic systems. Let's talk about the magic in our books and how we built said magic.
Mm-hmm. How do you start? I usually start with the end result. And then I go and search like what I want the magic to look like in the present. And then I retrace the origin of the magic. So if I want the magic to like, let's say objects can appear from the ether, right? I have to understand how this is Zoraida science possible, right?
She has her own science friends. That is
I have my own science.
Yeah. I do love Zoraida science, honestly.
But sometimes it borders on like flat earth science where it's like, I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. Okay. But she will defend it to
but it's on brand.
It's on brand. It's not to say that Zoraida Córdova is a flat earther. Please don't put that in.
I am not.
Oh no.
Do not. Don't start this rumor, Dhonielle. God, you're gonna get me canceled. Can't get me canceled before the end of the year. Okay. I made it to 2020.
You did.
So when I
keep going.
I look
Screen
for
captain going viral. So you mean by end result, you mean like starting point for the novel. You don't mean that you need to think about how your magic system might evolve over the course of a story, but you need to know what it's going to look like what's the container for the whole story.
Yeah, like I need to know what it actually does, because I get frustrated when I'm like, well, when magic rules change, right? So I need my magic to have to operate within the rules of that I establish in the world, and have a convincing reason as to why they have to change later on. And those reasons should be plot driven or character driven. And so, and then I think about like the origin of the magic, right? Like, where is it coming culturally, regionally, personally? And that's really how I how I build magic overall.
Is that how you did it for Valentina? Like, did you start, because Valentina has mad cryptids, okay? And
Valentina, right.
Zoraida Córdova is that she believes in cryptozoology. She loves cryptids, monsters, things of that nature.
Loch Ness.
If she could marry the man from The Shape of Water, she probably would.
What? He is a humanoid. Go ahead.
So when you were building Valentina's world and thinking about these cryptids, thinking about these monsters, these magical creatures, how did you decide between the regular world and like adding your magical creatures in?
Well, I sort of imagined, why are there rumors and sightings of cryptid animals, right? The Loch Ness monster, chupacabras, which are originally sighted in Puerto Rico, not in Mexico, as most people think. And so for me, the answer was, obviously there was magic on this earth at some point, and then all the magical creatures were gone. And so I did the work of like creating this realm, which I forgot what it's called, but this other realm where the monsters live. It's been a very long year. Okay.
Has it?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so I'm like, when did this book come out? Oh, it came out in June. So once I know that, then I can move forward.
Okay. Parker, what about for you?
This is the second world that I've built with a fantasy component. And I always start with the metaphor. I know it's the answer, right? But I usually have to zero in on what is the metaphor that I need to explore for this character's arc, and then build magic out from that. So when I was working on the world of the Devouring Wolf, I had sort of circled around wanting to work with werewolves, but I didn't want to just work with werewolves and replicate werewolves. I spent some time thinking about what traditional werewolf mythology looks like and what my experience was of it as I was, growing up and even as an adult, and what were all the werewolf stories that I had seen in my life. And when I settled on wanting to write in middle grade space, it was one of those like spark moments, one of those like perfect synergistic moments when what I wanted to write dovetailed so perfectly with what I had been like ruminating on and been interested in, which is werewolf mythology. And it landed very neatly on top of a puberty metaphor. So having my magic system all pointing back to that experience of growing up and how different it is for everyone, and how traumatizing it can be for a lot of people, especially for queer kids. I extrapolated out from there. It's like, okay, well, if this is the point that I need my entire novel to center around, how do I build an entire magic system that allows me to get to that point, but also feels relevant to, a whole host of experiences, not just kids. And so my werewolf world is not something that gets explored extensively in the pages of this middle grade, because the kids aren't exactly thinking about, what did it look like when werewolves crossed
Roam the earth.
ocean? Well, what does it look, when they crossed the ocean, like when different werewolf packs met each other? How did the Civil War change packs of werewolves? They're not thinking about that. But I have an entire history written around how werewolf packs evolved in the United States, so that I could work toward the kind of community that I wanted to build in the Devouring Wolf. So that is almost always where I start, is like some key image or key emotion, or a very narrow point, and then I have to extrapolate out. And that doesn't just mean backwards, obviously. That means in all dimensions, I have to extrapolate out to build that magic in a way that then works. And in the
Zoraida her lips and looking away in a very mischievous way.
What?
I'm scared. As you're talking, Zoraida's pursing her lips and looking away in a very mischievous way.
Why?
So look at her. She wants to say
why,
something.
Zoraida? You want to make a joke?
Joke.
No,
She
I was
does.
trying to cover. I have a lot of stuffed animals on my bed, and I was just trying to make sure I covered it with my whole body.
Zoraida.
It's so interesting how you both extrapolate, right? For me, for Marvelers, I think what I wanted to do was, first of all, everyone told me that you can't write a magic school book because of Hogwarts. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And what I'm going to do is try to have a different conversation. What happens when everyone in the world has magic, and that magic comes out of cultural traditions and all kinds in history and location and geography. But then also what happens when two different magical groups rub up against each other. So I wanted to have a different kind of conversation between the magic and the non-magic. I wanted to have a conversation between the magic and the magic, right? Like both have magic. They both have stereotypes about each other. They have feelings about each other. And I wanted to build magic where they are related, but they are different fundamentally because of what does trauma do to magic, basically? How does it change it? And so I bit off a lot having two magic systems in this book. So it took me so long for the first book. But I think I started from this place of what does it look like when every child in the world, especially the children that I was teaching in East Harlem, New York, what happens when they have magic? And what happens when they're all supposed to live together and get along, and whose magical traditions get followed, and how do you create order, and this idea of a global society, right? Like, what does that actually mean? Because in global societies, in cosmopolitan societies, there's still one person, one culture's ways of being that seem to sort of run things. So I wanted to see what that meant when you throw magic in. So I had a fun time. It was really hard, though. It was really hard to think through, how do two magic systems exist in the same world, in the same universe, and how are they related and how are they different? So I spent a lot of time redoing and scrapping and changing my magic systems. It was a lot.
Well, and you have magic systems that span cultures too. Like you weren't just doing two systems, you were doing like layers of two systems, right?
Yes. Why did I decide to do that? I did. But when you say that you're writing a global magic school, I needed to contend that like we're different. Everyone is different, but we're all magical. And what does that look like when we're all together? And how can I make it an exciting thing? But also that human beings, magical or not, like to create caste systems, and they like to create the haves and the have-nots, and they like to create hierarchies. And so what does that look like in the magical world?
Yeah. I mean, and also you took your time. Like you didn't just like go like, oh, here's my Latina girl. Her name is Kelly Quesadilla, right? Like you were like,
Kelly Quesadilla, I don't like you. Yes,
I was trying to rhyme. Like you were intentional.
Yes.
And you spent like agonize over this. Like when I tell you guys that she agonized over the Marvelers, it was like years of, is this right? Is this right? How does this sound? How do you say, like it's intentional. And Natalie, like you were intentional in the way you created your characters. And I think that really separates your fantasy from others.
Well, it's a good point. And so a question for all of us, but let's start with Dhonielle, is how do you take complex systems like this and then make it relatable and accessible to middle grade readers?
That's really hard because, again, I was juggling 2 magic systems, but what I wanted to center was this idea that like every kid is marvelous, right? They would have something that was a magical, marvelous thing about them, which would be their magical gift. And I wanted to make it very intuitive that, okay, so marvels are, if we're talking about that magic system, marvels are related to the light that you have inside you. It's your magic, and they come out of you and manifest in many different ways. And there are a variety of different ways that you can shut up. I can see you laughing at me, Zoraida. You're so bad.
I'm just smiling.
Zoraida Córdova.
I know. This is why we would get in so much trouble if we were in school together. But I wanted to make it intuitive that like, okay, marvelers have marvels and they believe that it's the light inside of them. And they decided to use this terminology as a way to create an umbrella amongst all of these different cultures that came together to live away from non-magical people. And the other magical group, conjurers, they are descendants of West African marvelers. However, because of trauma that happened to them from the transatlantic slave trade to all of the pressures placed on them as they came into North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean, it changed what their light looks like. So it is related, but that changed it, right? And it created an ostracization of them. And so I think that kids, especially middle grade kids, understand what it means to be an outsider. They understand what it means to be different. And they can hold this idea of like being the new kid at school. And so because instead of following a kid that is a marveler, I followed a kid that is not. So that then we could learn about the world from that outside point of view. And I tried to keep it sort of like really focused on like, how would she experience the world as the only of her magical group? And because I know what it's like to be the only person from my community in spaces, I know what that feels like. So I tried to really root it there and make her magic feel different to where people are asking questions, they're a little suspicious, and really mining my own middle school and elementary school sort of life and who I was.
I love that.
Yeah. Córdova,
Mm-hmm.
same question.
What? So, what is the question?
Disassociates while on panels. So people don't realize this. Like Zoraida will do this. Mm-hmm. And she'll be smiling, but she's not there.
No, my brain, the original question evaporated.
Yes.
That's Zoraida science.
It's Zoraida science. All the magic in your world and all of that's in your magic system. How did you anchor it for middle grade reader? Because you write YA and you write adult.
Yes. And yes. Anchor. I'm sorry. I think I got like 4 hours of sleep yesterday. The way that I anchor it is through character. I think that my main character, Valentina, does not want to let go of what it means to be a monster protector. Meanwhile, the rest of her family is sort of moving on. And in order for us to really understand the world of these little kid monster hunters, I feel like you have to understand Valentina and who she is. And so I think that the best way for me to anchor characters, whether it's here or to anchor magic systems, is through the protagonist and the thing that they want. And maybe I feel like I've done that through my Brooklyn Brujas series, which is a YA paranormal urban fantasy series, and through everything else. But I think the most fun part for me was trying to figure out what the magical creatures would look like, because obviously we have our standard. I feel like I ran into the same problem that Dhonielle did, which is like people think that other magic school created all of these things, and it didn't, right? Like these things existed in Celtic and British mythology, like the pagan mythologies of the Americas and of the United Kingdom, and so like those animals were already named, and so how do I add to this pantheon of menagerie is a better word. How do I add to the menagerie of magical creatures? Right.
You did a good job. You've got really cool ones, new ones.
And so from there, I feel like, Latin America is a place where we don't really see a lot of what comes out of there except for the chupacabra. And so I was like, let me just make stuff up, because why not? Why not make something original? But in order to have a comparison, I did name check, like, oh, this is the chupavaca. It is the cousin of the chupacabra, right? And
that
so
was really funny,
because you have to work with what people already know. And so I feel like when I write, I'm not just writing to myself because I'm writing to an audience. I have to write with the understanding that people are coming with their own preconceived notions, right? But like, oh, were you inspired by this and that? And I'm like, no, I wasn't. Right. So
what about you, Natalie, when you're building the magic of your werewolf? You're coming into a tradition of werewolf, right? Like that has so many books that came before you, but you do something really different in this book.
Yeah, and it touches on a lot of things that Zoraida has already said, but I wanted to make sure that I was both grounding in those existing werewolf mythologies and also spinning out of them. So I wanted to make sure that my whole story and my world was aware that every reader coming to this book was going to come with the expectation that werewolves turn on the full moon. And so the mythology of the devouring wolf world is that used to be true. At some point in the past that was true. But for this reason, they don't anymore. They have choice. They are able to choose or when they want to transform, with the exception of when they transform for the very first time. And that always happens on the first full moon of summer. So there are pieces of our very grounded werewolf lore that basically every reader will be aware of. And then everything grows from there. And that's one way that I made it. I feel like I was trying to make it accessible to middle grade readers who would already be aware of this mythology. And the other is that I wanted to make sure it was tied to an experience, Dhonielle, like you were saying, that looks similar to something that you were experiencing as a middle grade reader aged human. And for me, a lot of that centers around queerness and not having language for it at that point in my life, because, it was a million years ago and we didn't have the words then.
We really didn't.
We didn't. Not the way that,
not the late 80s.
Kids have words now. But so experiencing transformations in your own body and expecting transformations and expecting changes that were going to happen to you the same way you saw them happening for all the kids around you. And then realizing that it wasn't going to be the same, that something different was happening for you. And it wasn't something that, an adult in your life could explain to you because it had happened differently for them. And so keying into that pain point for my own childhood, which felt like something that is still very relevant to middle grade readers, whether or not they are queer. I mean, any middle grade reader, I think, really understands that pain of seeing things happen differently for somebody else than it happens for them. And that is where I grounded a lot of the story, is in that like push and pull between wanting and not understanding, and then trying to navigate your way through that, milieu of pre-teenhood and stuff.
It's so messy. It's so
It's so
messy.
messy. It's so
I want to
messy.
know if we would have been friends in upper elementary or middle school.
What, us?
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Because I was extremely shy.
I just don't believe this. I can't believe
You?
Wow.
I was so shy. I didn't talk to anybody except for like my 3 friends who were kind of mean. And I mean, you guys are the meanest girls in Meantown, so I guess I have a pattern.
That is slander. That is slander. Okay, those are lies that you like.
It's gonna be libel once I make a picture book about it.
I have not done a single mean thing tonight. I haven't done a
I'm
single
going to
mean
write
thing.
you a cease and desist letter that I'm going to get a template from Google.
It's called, everybody, the book is called The Meanest Girl in Meantown, The Meanest Girls in Meantown, and it's going to be about a princess who is bullied by 2 mean ladies
who can't drive and or swim.
I'm gonna write a picture book too. It's gonna be about a thief named Zori.
Yeah.
Zori is a seagull.
That's
Zori
right.
is a seagull. And she only steals things that other people want.
Right.
Or have in their hand.
In their hands, we're out to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's got big curly dark hair.
Yeah.
And she comes from Ecuador. She flew all the way to Kansas to steal your meals.
To steal a brownie out of the true princess's hand.
Correct.
Natalie.
That's right.
Look. Natalie L.
Natalie L. Exactly.
But, because we're professionals, back to the topic at hand.
Okay. Okay. What was the topic at hand, Zoraida?
Yeah, can you remember? Because you disassociated. You cannot. So the topic is, what kind of middle schoolers were we? Does it contribute to how you write your books, how you wrote this book? Also, would we have been friends? I would have been friends with Natalie. I would have tried to. Yeah, Natalie and I would be like thick as thieves. We would have tried to get you, Zoraida, but you seemed like you were too quiet, I guess.
Yeah, I was super shy and introverted, and I lived in my own little world, and I wanted to be cool, but I wasn't.
Okay, but did you ever get detention?
No. I literally had a teacher say to the entire class, which is probably why nobody liked me, I wish I could clone you. You're the best student I've ever had.
You brown noser. That's right. You were literally.
Okay. Did you ever get detention, Dhonielle?
I did, but I earned it. I got detention in the 5th grade because this girl kept saying Happy Kwanzaa to me all the time. And I shoved her. So I did get detention, but she also got detention too. She thought she was funny, and she kept doing it over and over again. It's like, it's May, honey. Like, this is racism. This is like knock it off. So I remember getting detention for that, but otherwise I did my work. And
yeah, you and I definitely would have been friends.
Yeah, we would have been trouble. Zoraida would have been in her corner, and we would have probably tried to get her to be friends with us, but I was nerdy. I was into my books, into my projects and what I was doing. And, so.
I was into the Spice Girls and witchcraft.
So 2 demonic things to your very Ecuadorian mother. Yeah, she was probably worried about you. I liked Spice Girls too, but Natalie and I were of age when we enjoyed Spice Girls.
Oh, we were of age.
We were of age. Forget you're our baby.
That's true.
Yeah. Yes. Anyways, I have another question for us.
Okay.
So, It's about whether we would survive our own worlds and where we would find ourselves in our own world. So, Zoraida, would you actually, if you were in the world and in the family that you created in the Salazar family, would you actually be brave enough to be getting these creatures, or would you be doing something else?
I think I would be in the realm, which I now remember is called Finisterra. And I would be there. And so I feel like I created an avatar for myself. So there is a guardian who lives alone with the creatures in Finisterra. And I feel like I created him as an avatar for myself because I just want to go live alone in the woods where nobody can bother me.
Well, we're going to bother you, so you can't leave us. So that's fine. So that's what about Natalie? Who would you in your pack? Would you, talk to me. Would you be upset if you didn't get to transform? Would you do?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote that experience because I feel like it was so close to things that I was experiencing in my life. But, I wrote this world, I wrote this pack, and you're both in it.
I know. It's the first time I ever used it in a book. I love it so much.
Dhonielle, she's our little scaredy wolf.
This is hashtag own voices for sure, because that's real.
Right. And she's Riley's cousin. And then there's Araceli, who is our very loud ray of joy.
It's loud, so you know that the wolf is loud, so you know which one it is.
She's loud and optimistic and always has really creative solutions to things. Sometimes Dhonielle gets mad and is like, why do you have to come up with the destructive solution to everything? And Araceli's like, because they work.
This is definitely true to our dynamic, right?
Oh yeah. Writing the two of them bantering back and forth. There are so many cut scenes of the two of them just bickering at one another. And it's like, I could write an entire book about the adventures of Dhonielle and Araceli.
So it's basically Deadline City, make it werewolves, make it
oh my god, yes.
Us just back and forth. Literally, we're going to be two elderly little werewolves arguing for the rest of our lives.
If I could do a flash forward, maybe if I can do a book 3, I will have a moment where it flashes forward and it's they're all old werewolves and you just see Araceli and Dhonielle are still bickering at one another. And Araceli is still saying a screwdriver will solve most of your problems.
That's true.
And I'm like, we're too old to go to jail. Please, let's find a different solution. I'm not going to make it in prison.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you would be in your pack. You would do all the stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wrote the pack that I would want to be a part of is the thing. The only reason, I kind of hesitate too, because, there are witches in this world as well. Witches. There are wolves and witches and hunters, and those are the 3 groups of people that can use magic. And it's a tough call. I also kind of want to be one of the witches, but I think honestly, I am so Sagittarius that if I couldn't turn into a wolf, I would be deeply, deeply sad for the rest of my life.
You'd be so.
Honestly, I am deeply sad that I can't turn into a wolf. So it's not.
I want to write a book where a 65-year-old mom has her call to adventure, and it's you're 50 years late.
Isn't there something like that though?
If somebody, because I talk about it all the time.
Oh, okay.
You see her little queen's hand goes up. This is when she gets really intense. This is the little queen's hand that comes. She's like, "What, bro?"
No kidding.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think I would survive my world. I would be a conjurer, and I would do what needed to be done. But I do think that I would be probably really grumpy to go to the school in the sky. I'm not like the main character. My main character is like bubbly. She's someone who will be your friend. If you don't have friends, that's not me. She's like the one that's going to say hello and sit with you at lunch. I'm very much like who becomes Ella's really good friend and her roommate, Bridget, who's like hates everything. She's like grumpy. They're like a grumpy sunshine pair. I'm the grumpy. I'm like, I hate it. Get me out of here. Tired of this. Like
grumpy sunshine.
Right. I'm the grumpy. You're the sunshine. It works.
Do you think you would teach at the school?
I think so, but I'd probably get in trouble with my curriculum because I'm going to do what I want to do. And this is a place that has a lot of bureaucracy, like many schools that I've worked at before, and lots of oversight. And so we do have a character who is Ella's godmother, who has been tasked to teach Conjure 101, essentially, to demystify all of the worries that all the parents have about this community coming in. And so she has a hard time with her curriculum, and parents sort of being upset and children sort of using their parents' talking points and interrupting her and being afraid. And so sort of showing all of that schools can be very slow to change and to open up at every single level. So I would be in trouble. I'd probably be put on a PIP, performance improvement plan, because I would be making trouble for sure. Magical trouble.
That sounds right.
Yes. But the two of them are also in the world of the Marvelers. So there is a store that's named after Zoraida. It's Córdova's Cornucopia of Confectionery. Okay, it's a little sweet store. And Natalie writes this open letter to like all of the Marveler community that's like, you guys are all bigots. Knock it off, basically. So
it's tactful.
It's tactful and diplomatic in the way that Natalie is. And so, yes, I planted all my friends in the book. Neither of you are in detention, so you should be happy about that.
Thank you. It is really fun to plant friends in books.
I love it.
I keep trying to plant more and then they get cut. And I'm like, then I'm really sad about it.
Sometimes I just use their last names. I'll use people's last names and, like making stores, making like magical objects and things like that. And I mean, I like stealing people's names. I also like trolling my friends so that they don't know where they show up. I find that to be a good time.
I put Natalie and Tessa in my Star Wars book.
Mm-hmm.
Did they survive?
Is that where Nate Gratonis is?
Yeah, that's where Nate Gratonis is. And there is a like a Star Wars author myth where I think Daniel Jose Older told it to me. He was like, when you put a person's name in a Star Wars book, they might write the next Star Wars book. And so for Tessa, it worked out.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I love that.
I didn't know that was a myth. That's creepy.
Because Daniel did it for me. The big fish guys, the Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
Daniel named one Admiral Zoraida in his Han Solo book.
And then you wrote one. Oh my gosh, now I need to know. We can find out how many people have planted Nick. Very interesting.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I think we have some questions from the audience.
Great. Let's do it.
It is
All
time.
right. Yes. And if there's anyone else out there who's watching who wants to submit their questions before it's too late, go ahead and do that. Click the Ask a Question button below, and she'll be asking them right now. First one for the group. What are some of the best and or most challenging aspects with writing for middle grade?
The best is the voice. I feel like it's very freeing. I can say a lot of the things and thoughts that I had when I was a middle schooler, since I was so shy, that I didn't say back then. I feel like children are very aware and astute. And so that's the most challenging part would be trying to keep a book short. Dhonielle.
I love the voice, like you said. I also love the topics, right? I love that middle grade feels like we can talk theme. We can talk big picture, big ideas, right? Middle grade readers will also follow you down any magical rabbit hole, and they'll be like, "Yeah, a magic school in the sky, it moves around. I'm there. Don't even ask about the mechanics of said thing, right? Like, of course it floats. Why wouldn't it, right? I think the challenge is that I think we're facing a challenge right now is that we've got the right wing is picking apart every little piece of our books, and we write and center the lives of marginalized children. And so it means that now we are a target. When I was writing for teens, nobody really cared what I put in my book because it's like, oh, it's 16 and up. And mostly adults are reading YA books. But now that I write for this, I'm starting to get challenges. I'm starting to get disinvited from schools and things like that. And it's weird. It's so weird to have this level of policing. And, also, I'm writing into a magical trope that is populated by a TERF. And so, therefore, her fans are constantly harassing me. So I'm like, that is also something I wasn't ready for. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm getting accused of erasing someone's legacy just because I decided to write a magic school book. And they're constantly sending me messages. So that was a downside.
Gross.
Mm-hmm.
I think that mine is kind of a mix of what has already been said. The fun part is diving into a voice that the goal is to take care of the reader. That is one of the things that I always loved as a middle grade reader, and even as an adult reader of middle grade, is how the narrative, you really can like lean into a narrative because it's designed to take care of you. And then the challenging part is figuring out how to convey a lot of these complicated themes and ideas in ways that feel authentic to middle grade readers. One of the things that I hold on to, a middle grade author told me early on was like, in YA, you can dive into an emotion and you can name that emotion, and then you can spin that emotion out through five different metaphors. Because your readers know what that emotion is and they feel it in a number of different ways. Your middle grade readers don't always know how to name the emotion. So it is like almost more sensational sometimes. And I mean that in the like physical sense of feeling and sensing, not in the sensational, it's like racy or whatever. But I mean that, and I think that has been a really challenging part of writing middle grade, is to be concise but also clear without diving into language that is maybe too advanced for the audience that I am writing for. So yeah.
Fantastic. Anyone out there who's reading watching and they're planning on writing a middle grade novel eventually, that's some great advice right there. Take that to heart. All right. For Natalie, was there a character that grew or lessened in importance from initial draft to final book?
This
Hard-hitting ones.
book, that's a hard one. So this is a book where I rewrote the opening chapter 5 times, and that's unusual for me. I almost always nail my opening chapter, and even though it might change a little bit in edits, I've never had the experience where I had to completely recast the opening chapter so many times. And I think that's because it's actually Riley who changed the most. The main character is the one who changed the most over the course of the drafts, of like trying to really figure out who she was and why this experience of not getting what she thought everybody else in the world got except her, why it was so extra meaningful for her to make her the main character. Yeah, like there are other characters that sort of like there's a character that got cut entirely, and I was so sure that he was going to be this like giant red herring through the entire book. And for probably up into the last draft he was. So I can't even tell you who he was because he's not in the final draft at all. Not even name dropped. He was like lifted, like the claw came down and lifted it up and just deposited him elsewhere. And it was so shocking to me because from first draft, I was like, this guy, he looks like somebody who plays Superman. And he was so much fun to write and gone, just gone.
He changed so much, he got Thanos snapped.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is a fun question for the group. What ritual or food drink do you have to perform, consume that helps you get writing? So I guess comfort foods or drinks or any rituals that get you in that writer headspace to like, okay, I'm ready. I can type all the words right now.
I definitely have a ritual. I tidy up my desk. I go through my notebook. Why are you laughing?
Because I know your ritual. Are you going to talk about how you burn your Palo Santo? How you like used to spray your face with like? She has these potions and lotions. Okay?
Although I have stopped spraying my face, but I do spray my body with perfume.
Oh.
It's a very light perfume. It's like I need like a scent. And so Dhonielle has been there through so much of this. I'm
sitting behind her at a desk and I'm like, why am I getting sprayed with this perfume? Like
she's making the environment hospitable for the writer gods to come down and be like, okay,
yeah,
we will bestow upon you.
Transformed into a Tia, and she's like,
I have like a little altar of like my tchotchkes, right? So like my crystals, and
Aquaman,
Jason Momoa. And then I have to have 17 cups of coffee. When I was on a horrible deadline in June and July, my cousin who lives with me, I had like the right side of my entire desk was just these Starbucks cups. And she came into my room and she's like, I used to want to know what writing life was like. And now that I know, I don't want to know it anymore.
You scarred her about us.
Yeah. And then she took all of my coffee cups and put them in the sink.
So coffee, perfumes, tchotchkes, Palo Santo, Florida water. You're doing your whole rituals. Yeah. Wow. For me, I need to be hydrated, right? Like I need to be. I've had breakfast today. I have not had anything else to eat. And this is what happens to me. I'm a stress starver. And so I need water, tea, probably a Pepsi, some sort of baked chicken, something, you know what I mean? Like I need massive amounts of protein to like get my brain to get going. But I don't really snack while I'm working because your computer gets all yuck.
Sticky and dirty, yeah.
Sticky, but I will, you know what I mean, have a beverage of some sort with me. But I always have a treat. If I just get through the day, I can make myself a skillet cookie, or I can order a steak, or I can get fried chicken or whatever. Like I need the treat at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The carrot going, come here.
Yeah. I also have a stress pillow.
Oh gosh, what's his name? Thank you. He has a movie coming out.
Yeah, he does.
What? Oh my god!
But
he
doesn't have a butt crack in your plushie.
He does.
Okay, I couldn't see it. I want to make sure it's extra pronounced.
Natalie, what do you do to get into the writer headspace?
On my ideal day, I go for my run. I have a shower. I make an Americano.
Or the elliptical.
Oh, I hate it, but yes. And I have an Americano and I sit down and I write. That's my like, I just have to get mind and body together before I
Um,
sit down.
Wow, I love the range. All three of you going from I just need water, maybe a little protein later, to everything must be
Yes.
heavy.
And she carries it with her when we're on retreat. She brings the shit.
Does.
She,
Oh
like,
my gosh,
out.
It's
Her, like,
incredible. It's like it needs its own suitcase.
your
It
writer's
fits
kit.
it fits in a pouch.
Mm-hmm.
I
It
don't think
always goes
Jason
in this
Momoa
little
fits in your
pouch.
pouch.
Mm-mm. It happened. But that is Nick's fault.
We lost Dhonielle. We lost Dhonielle somehow.
I mean,
It happened.
All right, that was great. Let's go to the next question. Okay.
oh god.
All right. Dhonielle, how difficult was it for you to keep your magic system in line? Did you have to outline the rules?
I did, and I had to change them several times. So I keep a notebook that has everything I need, and I had to change it over and over and over again. And it probably took until the third draft until I settled on like how the magic systems would be, how they would rub up against each other, what they would share, what would be different, what would be the pain points. So it took me a while.
Would you say that was more outlined than the actual book, the magic system? Because I know magic systems can be tricky, especially with, I don't think it's a problem with middle grade readers, but let's say an adult magic system, they'd be like, excuse me, you said this, and how does that work?
You'd be surprised these little mean middle graders sending you notes talking about this doesn't make any sense.
True, they don't have a filter, so they're like, well, guess
this
what?
is true. Exactly. But yes, so I had to I have a chart that has all of the rules and we stick within them, and then I chart out when those rules come up and how they're going to rub up against each other. So lots of outlining. Very,
Wonderful.
very strict.
All right, Zoraida. In light of the very revealing information about your driving habits, what research did you have to do about cars? Did you have to ask anyone, can cars do that?
Well, I did look up how to drive this kind of van, because it's kind of like a 1960s like Ford Volkswagen type of van, and so I looked at manuals and stuff, but then I had to retrofit it, which is a very Star Wars word. Everything's retrofitted in Star Wars. And so I just stole that and was like, all right, well, this is going to be a retrofitted van where the dad has made it so that the kids, there's a training wheels program. So there's a hologram that looks like an adult. So when the kid is driving, an adult will only see the adult through the window, right? And then the car drives itself. So they can't get into accidents and stuff like that.
So would you say you took more from the Star Wars universe with technology
than real life? Yes.
Life?
Absolutely.
I prefer cars to be that way too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got one last question for everyone. If you had to give someone a book that represented you the best, besides your own books, what would you give them?
A middle grade book? Let's do middle grade then.
Perfect.
Ugh, I can't do middle grade. Hang on. I look at myself.
Yeah, I have several. I'm very excited. So I would do Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas, which is about a little witchy girl who goes to witchy finishing school, and she's a little cute Black girl from Louisiana, and she's learning makeup magic and all kinds of stuff. I would also give them A Taste of Magic by J.L. It's about a little Black girl who goes to a magic school in the back of her beauty shop. And so it's super cute, and there are curl wands and all kinds of fun stuff. So those two right now are two that I think they also read well with Marvelers, and they are just so much fun.
Excellent.
I will have to go with a classic and say Doll Bones by Holly Black.
Nice.
No.
It really, really, really
Did
speaks
she
to
steal
who I
yours?
was as a kid. Sorry, not sorry. I guess I did do one mean thing today now.
Oh yeah. Finally, justice has been served.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like Natalie and Dhonielle's books do this for me because as a kid, I didn't really see myself in any middle grade. I really became an avid reader when I was 13, and I sort of imprinted on paranormal fantasy and urban fantasy at the time. And so it wasn't like literally until Dhonielle and Natalie's books, I couldn't name like a lot of middle grades where I'm like, this is me. Although I will say that the Percy Jackson books, like the first, I didn't read them until I was an adult. But the second one, The Sea of Monsters, it is very much like my kind of humor. Where Grover dresses up like a bride goat, and I thought that was hilarious. And I was like, I am this immature child. But yeah, since Natalie stole mine,
I stole nothing. You could have said the same thing.
Wait, you know another good one that we should have mentioned is The Insiders by Marco Shiro about
Yes.
three kids
yes,
who were bullied and they run into a closet, and they find out that this closet connects them to other schools and other kids who are hiding. And it's so incredible and about awesome queer kids and so great.
and also oh my God, Mark's new book.
Oh, David Bravo?
You only
Bravo.
live once.
David
You
Bravo.
Only Live Once, David Bravo, which is actually, I think wasn't it named one of the best books of 2020 by PW?
Oh,
I
nice.
think
Oh, wow.
I think so.
And Mark Oshiro, they are the chef Oshiro at the Arcanum Institute in Marvelers. So Mark is making their way through many fictional universes and real universes. So
Mm-hmm.
one kid at my school visit noticed that. He was like, wait a second, you have a chef Oshiro? Is that the same Oshiro that is blah, blah, blah? And I loved it. It was so great.
Well, thank you, everyone. We have reached the hour mark. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today for the event. Natalie, congratulations and welcome to the wonderful, magical world of middle grade.
Thank you.
Everyone who's watching out there, remember, you can buy your books through Mysterious Galaxy. If you click the link below, that'll take you to our website where you can get the books and signed book plates. And right now, we still have some signed copies of The Marvelers if you want to order one of those. I wish everyone a great day, night, whatever time in future you might be watching this in. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here and supporting each other.
Thank you for having
Of
us.
course.
This was great.
Thank you
And
for having
everyone
us.
for attending.
Yay! I love you
Good
guys.
night.
Bye-bye. Love
Bye,
you too.
everyone.